Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we are talking about Age of Overlord. I'm giving you my wish list for the set. We have the first couple of reveals for it already, which is just pretty much the cover art and support from that stuff, which is the new Z-Arc support. It's pretty cool. If you're a big fan of that, check it out because it does look to have some promise as a pendulum archetype going forward. It's cool. One thing we do know, though, is, like, pretty much aside from the support for the cover archetype, the name has nothing to do with anything else in the core set, really. That's kind of the pattern they've been going with, so we're going to go under that assumption today. My wish list is going to be simple. I'm going to talk about new archetypes that I hope are in here, support for legacy, or legacy support for archetypes, and then generic cards as well. Let's get into it. Starting off with the first things for the archetypes. We need two archetypes in here, not one. If there's only one, I'll be like, meh. I mean, but listen, there's always a silver lining. If there's only one archetype, there's probably more legacy support. I am a big fan of legacy support too, so it's not a lose-lose. But if we're talking perfect scenario, I want to see two new archetypes. I want them both to be, don't have to be legit tier 1 meta, but like rogue or better. I want both of them to be at least hit that baseline. These should theoretically be like the first one or two archetypes in a new lore setup, because it feels like we are kind of phasing out of the Visa Starfrost lore, finishing up there. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but that's the idea. Long story short, Duelist Nexus did not have any new archetypes whatsoever. The only thing new in there is going to be a TCG exclusive archetype. That doesn't really apply as far as, you know, overall new archetypes, you know, for the base of the core set. So I want to see two new archetypes. Other than that, I'm not too picky on what they are. I'm either going to like it. It's either going to be my style or not. You know, best case scenario, at least one of them is a style of deck that I like to play. More mid-rangey, not hella combo based, and cool aesthetically, you know, just vibe with it. So we'll see. Very simple for that. And then we get to the legacy support. They can go a ton of different ways with this. Things that Konami's been doing as of late is hitting archetypes that are only like 2 to 3 years old and giving them a really nice push to help them keep up with the power creep that's happened very recently. We just saw in the last set, Unchained, Infernoble Knight, Altergeist, like all got nice little bumps to help them stay kind of moving with the current level of the game, the current speed of the game, all that stuff. That's really cool. So as far as that goes, the three archetypes I'd want to see for that more than anything, Subterror. I know Subterror isn't 2 to 3 years old. It's more like, what, 6 years old? Something like that. Maybe 2017, maybe 2016 is when it came out. But it is still like, it came out like right on the cusp of Link era, I believe. So yeah, it's still not that old. We're not that far away from Subterrors. And plus, they're one of those decks that's like just over the hill. You know, not that long ago, this was a deck that was able to regularly compete. And here's the other thing I keep telling people. If they give the right kind of engine support to this deck, then they won't want to play the Dragoon package. They won't want to play a ton of Floodgates, because the engine actually does enough to kind of stand on its own. You don't need to just play bum-ass, you know, Floodgate deck, right? You can actually play an actual full-on, maybe mid-range strategy that isn't, you know, it obviously does some control tools, but not, you know, it's not nearly as oppressive the way that Subterra has been played over the last couple of years. I'd love to see that. It's one of my favorite archetypes of all time. Magistas. This one fits perfectly into that timeline of just 2 to 3-ish years old. Never really took off, but clearly has some tools that actually really have some nice stuff going for them. They just need the last like 2 or 3 cards to really get them over the hump there, and that'd be really cool. So I think Magistas definitely feels it. It also has like a bunch of lore intermixed with like a ton of the other spellcaster archetypes out there, which is really cool. I think that means that would be something Konami keeps an eye on, because they love like the lore heavy archetypes. And the last one for those types of decks is Trickstar. Again, early Link era, so it is a little bit older, but it's just that. You still look at these cards, and you're like, these are good cards. They just don't have a payoff. They just don't really feel like they have a win condition, you know, strong enough for modern day Yu-Gi-Oh! If they got 2-3 cards, and they got like an interruptive trap card, a Link 2 that, you know, kind of resembles Double Dragon Lord, something like that, that could be enough. We'll see. But I really would like to see them get support as well. They don't do anything nowadays. They're so mid now. They don't just, yeah, there's nothing. And then for the poop archetypes that I'd love to just, these are my flyers, you know what I mean? Out of nowhere, give it to me, Battery Man. Battery Man actually low-key has a handful of monsters that you're kind of just like, and spells even, where you're just kind of like, oh, that's just non-once per turn monster reborn for the deck. 9 volts just a Rhoda. Solar is just a Foolish Burial that also gets you an extra Thunder Body on the field. Like, there are a handful of solid cards in the deck. Now, this would be an archetype that probably needs 5-ish cards, so this would need a bigger wave to kind of like get its feet off the ground. But I love this deck. It would be a really cool addition to just like be like, oh, actually another Thunder deck. Thunder's one of the most underutilized types in the game. That would be really cool to get another additional playable Thunder archetype, and I think Battery Man would be sweet. The last one is Magnet Warriors. I love this deck so much. They've gotten little sprinkles of like not bad cards here and there, but they just straight up do not have enough. They're still not that, I mean, I think they're not that close, but they're closer than people think at the same time. I think they're like, if they got an ABC Dragon Buster equivalent that like is that easy to summon, that powerful on the field, and like has that really good float effect, I think this deck could be legit like a rogue deck immediately. Of course, like another tool or two could actually make it a legit like tier 2 option, but obviously it needs like the exact right cards to kind of get it there. But I love this archetype. It's a Yugimoto archetype, so come on, Konami, what are we waiting for? That would be my prayer there. And then lastly, so those are the 5 archetypes that I'd love to see get support in here. If 1 or 2 of them end up in there, I will be ecstatic. But we'll see. As far as the last part of the set, the filler or random off cards, you know, one-off cards, they're not part of an archetype, they're not part of a theme, they're just, oh, that's just a really good card. I want to see something here. I felt like Duelist Nexus really didn't bring much to the table in terms of like generic bangers. You know, you have Revolution Synchron. It's a fine extender, sure. You have Click and Echo, which is a cool card, but again, it only comes up in like so few decks. Same thing with Revolution Synchron. Like so few decks can actually take advantage of those. Like very specific decks with the right setup for them. And the last one would be like Little Opposition. Other than that, I didn't find too many great. I guess there's Fusion Reproduction or whatever that one is. It Reproduction or Reinforcement. It's like a cool extender card, but it's so specific. It only can summon very few targets in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! At all, and you know, so few decks can play it. It is a decent generic card, but I want to see something. And listen, this doesn't have to be power creep out the butthole, but I think about stuff like Chaos Angel from Cyberstorm Access, which just came out. Any light or dark deck is pretty much going to have to take a second look at that and be like, oh, my deck does have levels that work into that. And the set before that, we saw Triple Tactics Thrust, like, you know what I mean? Something like that. Maybe it's 1 or 2 that are like not super, super high end, but like decent. And then, you know, or it's one that's really high end and then some other small stuff here and there. I'd be okay with. I just want something. You know, there should be 1 card like that per core set, I feel like. It just feels right. So hopefully they hit on that. I'm not asking too much here. I don't need all of this stuff to come to fruition, especially not all 5 of the archetypes. If all 5 of those archetypes got support in this set, and they were all good enough to the level I wanted, I'd call it my favorite set of all time. But we'll obviously have to take it one step at a time there. So yeah, those are my quick little wish list for Age of Overlord. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down below. What do you want to see out of this set based on what we've been seeing as of late? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Throw that down below, but I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, as always. Peace.